More like probably 271,000, I would imagine. But, this tells me that something big is coming. That Israel they're not even going to hide from it. These Jews were responsible, like it says in the JFK files, by the way. The Jews are bad. The Jews are responsible. Yeah, it's all there among the 80,000 pages in no chronological order at all whatsoever. Read through them. Something big is coming that they're not even going to try to hide from. It's not going to be the conspiracy theory of the USS Liberty, despite the fact that the survivors all repeat the same exact story and that all of the evidence shows that Israel and these Jews carried out that terror attack. 9/11, JFK, all of that. You bring up 9/11, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. JFK, you bring that up despite the fact that it's right there in the JFK files. Nope, it's anti-Semitic. But this tells me that they're just gonna get out in front of that. You're not going to need to question them. You're going to know exactly who it was that was responsible for doing this. But if you bring it up, if you talk about it, if you condemn them for it, if you criticize them for it, then it becomes a federal felony and you spend the rest of your life in prison or deported or executed. More with Frankie. Frankie Stocks is with us for an entire hour. We're lucky. The most based journalist on planet Earth, by the way. Follow him on X at Real Stocks. Check out all of his articles over at stewpeters.com. He goes right into the belly of the beast. And the mustache looks pretty good. We were talking about all of this anti-Semitism legislation, making it illegal beforehand, before a big event could take place. And then you have the news cycle being completely dominated over the last, week or so. Reports and different narratives claiming that Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump are getting a divorce. They don't see eye to eye anymore. They're breaking up. And the America First agenda will finally be realized. Saving Israel for last. Trust the plan. There's a whole bunch of Trump supporters out there just jumping up and down. I told you so. Telling the rest of us all that we needed to trust the plan the entire time. And that America is breaking off from its overlords finally, and it's going its own way. Now there's even Jewish influencers out there pulling the fire alarm saying, oh my God, look out. Trump's turning on us. America is turning on us. They're all anti-Semitic. I wish this government were anti-Semitic. I wish we had a government that wasn't run by a bunch of satanic Jews and their minions. But that's not the world that we're living in. Because, I don't know who needs to hear this or who needs to be reminded of this, but these Jews paid $200 million to have Donald Trump installed as the president of the United States. These Jews paid $200 million to make damn sure that they had a guy in the White House who would let them do whatever the they want and assist them in every way all along the way. Trump's playing a part. So while we're hearing all of this noise about Trump and Bibi breaking up, it's important to remember that all this is noise. It's all propaganda. It's all fake and gay. It's meant to create a set of circumstances under which the Jews can kill even more Gentiles. We're already seeing the results of this. As Benjamin Netanyahu says, Israel will now go crush Gaza, just kill everybody. Take everything. They've set this narrative now that the desperate and victimized Jews have to stand alone. They're the ultimate victim as a nation, as a race, as a satanic religion, and that not even Trump, not even America has their back anymore. Everybody has turned their backs on the Jew. So now they have no choice. They're left with no choice at all. They just have to kill everyone. And this whole Trump versus Netanyahu thing, it's all part of that, you see. It's all part of making Netanyahu look justified in going full-on Joseph Stalin and sending millions of people to their deaths. This isn't some kind of declaration of independence. It's not some reassertion of American sovereignty. These Jews control our financial system. These Jews control our government. These Jews control our foreign policy. And this whole scenario is fake. Let's bring Frankie Stocks back in to discuss this. I mean, do you agree that this is all just part of the WWE wrestling match that we're watching?
Stu, I agree with you 110%. From the second that this story started getting out there, it didn't add up. It didn't seem right. It started last week. They said that Trump was no longer going to talk and communicate with Netanyahu and with his regime. And then 2 days later, there's a story in Axios that the very morning after this whole Trump Netanyahu report came out, that Trump was in his office meeting with a member of Netanyahu's regime. So it's all fake news. This is all getting out there. This is a psyop to get the American people, especially Trump supporters, who are turning their backs on this guy at a breakneck speed, to get people to say, oh my gosh, look, he really did it. He's turning on Israel. He's really doing it. He listened to us. No, that's not the case at all. And now they have Trump out there. Do you notice how all this was coordinated for Trump to go out and be at these conferences with these Arab leaders and these Muslim leaders? And now they have the whole narrative of, look, there's Trump linking arms with the Muslims. There's Trump talking to the Qataris. They
taking $400 million gifts from the Qataris. Yes.
Yeah, this whole ridiculous notion that there's some kind of like bidding war or something, and Israel's going to lose and we're going to turn on Israel and they've got to go on the warpath. They've got to kill everybody. This is all set up to give them that free pass, and then it's all set up so that Netanyahu can look like the freaking victim here. I mean, this guy, this genocidal psychotic maniac, he's now presenting himself as like, oh my gosh, everybody turned on me. Everybody stabbed me in the back. We have to go on the warpath. And then
there's another possibility here too, though. The other possibility is that they martyr Netanyahu. They make him look like he was the guy that was behind all of this, that singularly it was him that was responsible for these war crimes in Gaza and everywhere else that has gotten in the way of the Greater Israel Project. And that they will go ahead and honor the arrest warrants from the ICC and put this guy on trial. I would compare it to kind of like if somebody's going to fall for COVID, who's the first guy that's going to go? It's going to be Tony Fauci, the little rat-faced demon Tony Fauci. And yeah, the guy should hang from a length of rope until dead when he's convicted of the crimes that he committed. But they're going to do the same thing to Netanyahu. And then there's the replacement theory. Who comes in next? And what I was saying was, it doesn't matter. I was saying this in a space on X yesterday. It doesn't really matter who comes in next because it couldn't get much worse. It doesn't matter. The agenda just continues. The Greater Israel expansion, the ongoing genocide, the subversion of everything and everywhere that they go, the occupation of governments throughout the West, the blackmail, the bribery, the degeneracy, the pornography, all of the filth, the usury, all of this stuff continues. We still maintain our control of the financial apparatus with the Federal Reserve. Nobody can criticize us because now, but this brings me to the point that I think I may have been wrong. I think I underestimated how bad this actually could really get. And when you combine that with what we talked about before the commercial break, they've already preemptively made it illegal for you to criticize anything. And so if it's illegal to criticize or to protest against or, to question in any way how bad things are getting, well, then things can get really, really bad. So whether it's making Netanyahu look like the victim or whether it's martyring him, either way you go, it's going to get a lot worse. That's the way that I see it. Do you agree?
I do agree, and I think that making him the victim goes hand in hand with martyring him. This unleashes Netanyahu on the warpath. Trump is detached from him here, at least in the media space. Trump is detached from him in that narrative, and then Netanyahu goes on the warpath and kills a bunch of people. America, the American people are like, oh, well, at least we weren't on his side for that, and then they get rid of him, and you're right, they bring somebody else in. Who could it be? Can it get much worse? It's going to be someone just as evil. These people are all playing for the same team. They're all playing different parts. It's like plug and play. Somebody gets plugged in on the left side of the aisle, somebody gets plugged in on the right side of the aisle, and they just play the role in exactly what you called it, this WWE wrestling match. And this can get a lot worse, and I think it's going to get a lot worse. We have this whole Trump in the Middle East, Netanyahu moving into Gaza. They're obviously going to move into the West Bank and steamroll that too. They're going to continue going because once they kill all these people, I don't think that there's going to be some like non-response. I think that that's going to set a lot of things in motion, and the United States is inevitably going to get sucked in. And so we have this whole charade going on where Trump is out being Mr. Diplomacy. Trump is out being Mr. Stop World War III. He's living up in the eyes through the media. He's living up to his campaign promises to be the anti-war president, but all the while, the pieces are being laid to go to war. They're being laid for Netanyahu to be allowed to go on the war path. And then if he goes too sour, if he's too toxic, they can get rid of him. Just what you called it. They can martyr him. They can say, this guy's got to go. We're bringing in somebody else. And then they just continue the war effort. I mean, I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon. They've gotten now, Netanyahu, he was on the verge of getting thrown out of government before all of this started. This whole war has delayed him getting thrown out of office. Israel still has their domestic political issues going on. They go with a change of window dressing, and then all of a sudden they're good for another several years, before people start questioning the new guy. And it'll be the same in the United States. There'll be some new face that'll come in and they'll say, this is the face of hope and change, like an Obama thing. You change from bloodthirsty maniac George Bush to bloodthirsty maniac Barack Obama. You go through the same wars, you just have different window dressing, you have different social issues, different face on the world stage. That's exactly what they're going to do if they move Netanyahu out of here. It'll be somebody carrying out the same agenda, and they're laying the pieces for it right now, including the pieces to make the U.S. look like we didn't bring all this on, to make the U.S. look like we tried to stop it, when it's all charade.
I had my mute button on. You were cooking. And when you get rid of Trump, they've already got their guy. It gets worse here with J.D. Vance. And all of MAGA has bought into J.D. Vance. The tough guy, the blue-collar American, like the multicultural family, like all of that acceptance. The Judeo-Christians, they love this guy. The evangelicals, they love this guy. And so it just gets worse after Trump, whether they get rid of him, in a really sudden way, or if they just allow this term to expire and then he's already talking about another term. But either way, it gets worse.
Yeah, it does. And J.D. Vance is the guy who says that we should be listening to Israel on all of our foreign policy, and that if we had just listened to Israel, which we did, that's the crazy thing. If we had just listened even harder to Israel for decades and years, then we would be in a much better position than we are now. I guess he thinks that we didn't go to enough wars on behalf of Israel. J.D. Vance, you're right. He's been presented as this kind of like outsider, blue collar type of guy. Anybody can become vice president. Look at J.D. Vance. He's got this whole, American story behind him. That is the type of person who the people put on the blindfolds and they follow off the edge of a cliff. It's happened with Trump. Now people are starting to sour on Trump, and they are going to pursue a third term. They've been very clear about this. Steve Bannon is out saying, hey, we're going for a third term here. So you're going to have some kind of GOP fissure where there's going to be the third termers for Trump, and then there's going to be another wing who's going to say, bring in somebody else. But that wing is going to be dominated by these J.D. Vance homers. They're setting up the base of support for Vance already, and they're going to try to usher him in, and he's going to continue carrying this out. It's very obvious, I think, to anybody who's paying attention, that J.D. Vance is not this like outsider, country boy who they just brought in to win over the working class with some kind of genuine heart. This guy is a total plant. People were vehemently against him when he first ran for the Senate. They used to call him a never Trumper. They used to say that he was anti-America first, that he had disdain for the MAGA voters. And he expressed that disdain many, many times in statements that have been published and video recorded and things like that. But now they've just repainted him as like Trump's little protege. And so you got people supporting Vance. You've got people supporting this ridiculous third term idea for Trump. And they're following these people off a cliff. It's either way you go, we're going to be war. They're setting the stage for all of this right now. And they have been for the past few months since Trump got into office.
A big microcosm of all of this was that Dave Smith, Doug Murray debate. Remember, on the Joe Rogan Experience? That was a microcosm of all of this. You have two Jews that are having the debate. So no matter who wins the debate, the narrative gets carried forth. It's the same thing with all of these actors, these candidates, these opposition parties, this left and this right, and then Vance versus Trump. And it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the Jews are controlling the entire narrative. They're controlling the entire government, the entire financial ecosystem. They're controlling all of it. And we're allowing them to. And they're not going to be stopping on their own. They've got to be stopped.